We wish you a Merry Christmas, a Holy Night. O come, all you faithful, joyful, and triumphant. Do any of those describe you tonight? Maybe all of them, maybe none of them. Would you say that this evening you're here in an attitude of joy and triumph? Or, like a lot of people around this time of year, do you find yourself struggling, discouraged, fearful, frustrated? Are you here hoping for the light and life of Jesus to make a deposit in your heart right here, right now, this evening? The good news is, wherever you're at, it's okay, because he's with you. Just like that night in Bethlehem so many years ago. If you look at the scenario, here you have Joseph and Mary in a very real way, left out in the cold. Jesus is born in an animal feeding trough. That's what a manger is. It wasn't like this cute box. It's where the animals ate from. And he was wrapped in rags, torn bits of cloth. And none of that sounds like the way we might imagine. Shortly after his birth, Herod decrees that all male children under the age of 2 should be put to death. So Joseph and his family flee to Egypt, where they remain until Herod dies. So in a way, if you're Herod, I guess from his perspective, Joseph and Mary are essentially outlaws. They flee, they leave, they're avoiding this decree, and they're subjects of the Roman Empire. They're poor, they're immigrants. In today's vernacular, we would say they are very vulnerable people in many ways. Now consider baby Jesus, not the Christ crucified and risen, not the Son of God seated at the right hand of the Father, but the baby. Can you even imagine, can you think of anyone on earth more vulnerable than a baby? I can't. Babies are fully dependent. They're small. They're weak. They can't articulate their needs very well. They're fragile. They're, well, vulnerable in every possible way. Now, I can't imagine going back to being a baby at my age. I can't imagine being God and deciding to be a baby, choosing to become a baby. And if, as they say, the method is the message, then what's the message that we might receive from God, not only becoming human, but becoming a baby, starting as a baby? Surely he could have just come in fully as an adult, right? But he came as a baby. Maybe the message is how vulnerability creates intimacy. Maybe the message is, hey, I trust you with my life. Maybe another message is, I'm going to do whatever it takes to reach you, to meet you where you're at, to relate to you in every possible way. The message of being a baby, just in that message alone, Jesus defies a world that elevates strength and independence. Hail Jesus, all vulnerable. Have you ever noticed yourself fighting against, working hard to not be vulnerable, to not appear weak or like you need another person? I notice, if you're like me, it consumes a lot of energy. And it's as if somehow I need to let people know I'm fine. I have this. I don't need anything. I'm good. And maybe even a little, stay out of my business. I think it's the human condition that we just imagine we don't need, or we fantasize somehow that we can make it on our own. And if we could just look for a list of do's and don'ts, then we can color inside the lines, follow the rules, and have some semblance of control over the outcome of our lives and our relationships. So once we have it down, whatever the it is, and what? Does life turn out perfect? Does everything go the way that it's supposed to? Definitely not. And when it doesn't, do we blame God for his useless rules and his unrealistic expectations and how it really doesn't work, as if he put something on us? It's an interesting form of almost hypocrisy that we get to blame God for the attitude of our own hearts, instead of recognizing that that's just another form of independence, trying to get it right all on our own. Tonight, I invite you to be received, just to be received, to allow yourself to be loved in your weakness, your vulnerability, your imperfection, your inadequacy, maybe your suffering or loneliness or fear. Wherever you're at, it's all right. And here's the trick. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to be strong. You don't have to have it all together. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it figured out. As a matter of fact, all of that probably just get in the way. What you will need to do is just to be willing. Just be willing to lay down whatever is in the way between you and you receiving. What will it take, do you imagine, just to be loved, to let yourself be loved, just to receive those around you tonight? At the end of the pews, there's these small white cards, if you can see them. And they don't go all the way back, but if you grab one and pass it back so that people all the way in the back can have one. And there's a pen, too, and you can share pens, because it is Christmas, and we can share. And what I'm going to ask you to do is really to think about maybe one or two things that you would be willing to lay down right now, tonight, in order to create more room, more space to receive from him. Now, maybe what you need to lay down is something you've been holding on to. Maybe it's some unforgiveness. Maybe it's a judgment you have about yourself. Maybe it's a fear, or, I don't know, maybe it's a sadness or an anger or an expectation. Just whatever has come into your mind. Again, this is not performance. You don't have to get it right. Just whatever seems true for you in the moment. And I'm not going to ask you to show it to your neighbor, so just you can be honest. Just one word, maybe, whatever that is. 2 words. And I'm going to ask you to be willing, when you've done, just to come down and drop it in the trash. Just drop it in the trash like you're done. You're going to toss it away. You're going to lay it down to make some more room to receive love tonight. And when you do that, come down, put it in the trash, let it go. I'm going to ask you to pick up a light. Pick up a light and turn it on. There's a little black button underneath. And turn it on as a symbol of being received by love himself this evening.